Welcome to the Hotelligence Podcast, your strategic vantage point on the changing landscape of hotel safety. Hosted by Jim Kortz, a retired FBI DHS investigator, and Don Carr, a former frontline security owner-operator with years of first-hand incident response experience on hotel properties. Every episode brings you closer to understanding the full picture and what the future may hold. Let's begin.
Welcome back to the Hotelligence Podcast. This is episode 10, The Camera Illusion, Why Surveillance Doesn't Equal Safety. I'm Don, and during the years I operated on-site security teams at hotels, I reviewed a lot of camera footage, hallways, elevators, parking areas, back of house spaces, and one thing became clear very quickly. Cameras are everywhere, but they rarely do what people think they do.
And I'm Jim, retired federal agent. Today we're unpacking a major misconception in hospitality, and that's the idea that cameras create safety.
They don't.
They create records.
And there's a big difference between the two.
So let's begin by talking about what cameras are actually for. At their core, cameras are documentation tools. They exist to record environments so that something can be reviewed later.
And in hospitality, they're primarily used for disputes, claims, internal investigations, and after-the-fact clarification. Slip and falls, theft complaints, conflicting accounts, things such as that.
Yeah, and that's not a failure. That's the purpose they were installed for.
The problems start when cameras are expected to function as prevention systems rather than record-keeping systems. And that brings us into why monitoring is rare. Many people assume someone is watching camera feeds in real time.
But in most hotels, that simply isn't true. There's no control room, no dedicated monitoring staff, and no continuous review.
The system is passive by design. It records, stores, and waits.
Which means cameras usually become relevant only after an incident has already occurred. So let's talk about blind spots. So I think another misconception is that cameras provide complete coverage.
They don't. Coverage gaps are structural. Elevators, stairwells, parking areas, service corridors, back of house spaces.
And even areas with cameras often suffer from poor angles, lighting issues, or resolution limits.
Most camera systems were designed to document space, not interpret behavior. Technology isn't the limiting factor. Modern cameras are capable of a lot: high resolution, analytics, pattern recognition.
But all that capability doesn't equal usage.
Right. Hotels don't deploy cameras as analytical tools because doing so would change their role entirely.
Yeah, it would move them from documentation into interpretation. And interpretation carries legal and operational consequences. So that brings us to footage without context doesn't create action. Even when footage is reviewed, it's usually reviewed narrowly.
Right. Staff are looking for a specific moment tied to a specific complaint, not broader context.
Without investigative training, footage is seen literally, not behaviorally.
A hallway walk is just a hallway walk, unless you're trained to understand what matters. And hotels aren't structured for that kind of interpretation. And that segues right into the perceived coverage and how that changes behavior. Because one of the more subtle issues with cameras is the confidence they create.
Right. Hotel staff may feel a space is covered even when no one is actively observing it.
Guests may assume someone is watching.
And that perception can reduce vigilance rather than increase it.
So confidence without control is not the same as safety.
So why cameras don't connect into patterns? Well, cameras produce enormous amounts of data, but hotels aren't positioned to analyze that data across time or context.
Correct. Footage is tied to incidents, not patterns. It's stored locally, reviewed selectively, and retained for limited periods.
Connecting behavior across moments would require infrastructure, authority, and oversight, all of which hotels don't have.
So footage remains what it was designed to be: a record, not an intelligent system. So the real limitation is cameras don't fail because they're broken.
They fail when they're asked to do work that they were never designed to do.
And expecting surveillance to create safety misunderstands how safety actually forms in hospitality.
Safety isn't created by observation alone. It's created by systems that define roles, boundaries, and response.
So in closing, the truth about hotel cameras is simple. They're valuable tools for documentation.
But they're not substitutes for system design, clarity, or intentional safety architecture.
And understanding that distinction helps explain why cameras are everywhere and yet don't deliver the protection people assume they do.
In the next episode, we'll talk about another operational reality that frustrates staff and managers alike. And that's why incident reports almost never tell the full story.
And remember, we're in this together.
And together, we make hospitality stronger.
We publish a short, written insider briefing alongside each episode. It goes out on Wednesdays when the episode drops. If that's useful, the link is in the show notes.
Thank you for joining the Hotelligence Podcast, where experience informs smarter, safer hotel operations and prepares you for what comes next. Stay informed, stay confident, and stay connected. As the conversation evolves, Jim Cords and Don Carr will highlight developments that help hotels strengthen their approach to safety and risk management. See you next episode.